Good morning. It's Tuesday, May 8th. In our story on Henry Demone and Highliner's closure of the Burin and Danvers plants, we want to comment about globalization. This is a picture of the Burin, Newfoundland plant behind me. First of all, globalization is a fact in the seafood industry, and any harvester or processor, no matter where they are, is participating in a global seafood trade. So there's no escaping that fact. But once you establish that globalization is here, it can benefit. How it benefits depends on the actions of the local harvesters and processors. In some cases, the global demand is a clear benefit, like in the Florida lobsters and the spiny lobsters in the Florida Keys. Chinese demand has revolutionized that fishery. Same thing with global demand for scallops and the fishing off of New Bedford. Again, global demand has been a very positive thing. But what happens when, in a particular location, there's a mismatch between what can be landed by the harvesters and processed locally? In that case, I think that you have to look at holding on to the control over the resource through IFQ type programs tied into particular processing plants and buyers. Now, harvesters will always say that an IFQ program tied to a plant prohibits them from their market opportunities. And to a certain extent, this is true. It does prohibit them in the short term from possibly selling to a cash buyer. But the downside of globalization is when these cash buyers basically come and go and wipe out any infrastructure in a fish-producing region, whether it's in Finnmark in Norway or in Newfoundland or on the west coast of the U.S. So the price for actually succeeding in a globalized world is establishing these kind of unbreakable relationships between harvesters and processors. Not vertical ownership per se, but certainly the ability to act in concert so that when it's necessary to compete on a global scale, and you may not have made the necessary cost savings or infrastructure improvements to do so, you have the wherewithal in terms of investment to make that happen. Sometimes that might mean taking a slightly lower price to enable local processing to continue. Sometimes that might mean investing in local processing, knowing that there's a guaranteed return basically from access to the resource. So all in all, the idea that dealing with globalization requires some sort of new thinking or cooperation and not a typical butting of heads between the harvesting and processing sector is totally necessary. In the case of Highliner completely abandoned fishing to compete in this global marketplace. And now, ultimately, communities like Burin are feeling the effect. In Lexington, Mass, this is John Sackton.